The horse stumbled into the yard just before sundown, its front leg dragging uselessly, its rider clinging tight to the reins like life itself. Dust streaked her face, and the hem of her faded blue dress was torn where it had snagged against mesquite branches. She didn't look like anybody's bride. She looked like a ghost that had lost its way. Ethan Calloway had been mending a fence line when he saw her. For a moment he thought she was some wandering when he saw her. For a moment he thought she was some wandering, but then he saw her eyes, sharp, determined, though glassy with exhaustion. She slid down from the saddle, legs buckling in the dirt. Ethan caught her before she hit the ground. "Easy now," he muttered. Her lips parted, dry as old parchment. "Are you the man they call Ethan Calloway?" He hesitated. "Depends who's asking." "I'm your bride." Her voice cracked, but she managed to meet his gaze square. Or so the papers said. The ranch yard. Ethan felt a cold wind run through his chest. Weeks ago, he'd agreed to a correspondence marriage arranged by the preacher in town, spurred by loneliness and the creeping sense that he was aging alone out here. But he hadn't expected this, a woman arriving broken, with nothing but a dying animal to her name. She clutched a small satchel to her chest. "My name's Clara." He steadied her. "Clara, you don't look fit for standing, let alone marrying heir. Clary, you don't look fit for standing, let alone marrying heir. That's what counts." Behind them, coyotes yipped in the distance. The horizon burned with the last of the day. Ethan looked at the ranch house, empty rooms echoing with his own silence these past years, and then at the woman who had arrived with nothing but grit in her eyes. He didn't answer right away. His silence stretched long enough that Clara's fingers clenched around that satchel like it held her last shred of pride. Finally, Ethan exhaled. Good and exhaled. Good and ex. Good and ex. Good and exhaled. Good and ex. Clara swayed on her feet, her eyes rolling back. She collapsed fully this time, and Ethan scooped her into his arms. As he carried her toward the house, a new sound reached his ears, hoofbeats in the distance. Someone else was coming. By the time Ethan laid Clara on the narrow bed inside his house, her fever had already taken hold. He soaked a rag and pressed it to her forehead. She stirred, mumbling names he didn't recognize, fragments of a life she'd. Outside, someone dismounted. Ethan's hand went instinctively to the Winchester leaning in the corner. A knock rattled the door, not polite but heavy, deliberate. Ethan pulled it open to find two men, ranch riders by their look, dust on their coats and the kind of smirks that didn't belong on friendly faces. "Evening, Calloway," the taller one said. "We saw a lady on the road. Figured she might have wandered here." His eyes slid past Ethan. Ethan past Ethan. His eyes slid past Ethan. "She's under my roof," Ethan said evenly. "That's all you need to know." The shorter man spat a stream of tobacco into the dirt. "Word is she's been running from somewhere. Folks said she skipped out on promises." Ethan felt a slow heat rising in his chest. Word travels fast. Faster than truth, most times. The men exchanged a look. "We'll be back," the tall one said, mounting his horse again. "Ain't right, strangers claiming folks that mounting his horse again. Ain't right, strangers claiming folks that bent." Ethan shut the door, the sound of the latch loud in the silence. Clara opened her eyes halfway. "They followed me," she whispered. Ethan crouched beside her. "You gonna tell me why?" Her lips trembled. "Because I broke free. Because I said no when they tried to sell me off like cattle." He stared at her, the weight of her words settling heavy. He could send her away, pretend he never saw her. Or he could stand by her, knowing full well that men like thought, "If you turn me out, they'll take me. And I won't last." Outside, the night deepened, coyotes howling like a warning. Ethan closed his eyes briefly. Then he pulled a chair close to the bed, resting the Winchester across his lap. "Then you stay," he said. And whatever comes, comes. From outside the window, a whistle cut through the dark. Low, sharp, and far too close. By morning, the sky was bruised purple, the kind that promised a storm, the kind that promised a storm. Ethan had barely slept, watching the shadows shift across the floor while Clara coughed through fever dreams. The whistle from the night hadn't been imagination. Tracks in the dirt told him riders had circled the house, watching, waiting. In town, the saloon was already buzzing with the story. "Calloway's got himself a runaway bride," men whispered over whiskey. Some laughed, others frowned, but all agreed trouble was coming. By noon, Ethan saddled his gelding and rode into town for supplies: flour, quinine, and cartridges. He felt eyes on him with every step. The general storekeeper hesitated before handing him the goods. "You sure you want to tie yourself to this, Ethan? Word is she's marked." Ethan's jaw worked. "Word don't feed me, don't heal her fever, don't build fence lines." He shoved the coins across the counter. "Truth is what happens when a man keeps hest, when a man keeps hest." As he loaded the supplies, the two riders from last night appeared again, blocking his way. The taller one leaned on his horse's horn. "That woman ain't yours, Calloway. She belongs to the Carter outfit. They paid for her, and she ran." "She's not cattle," Ethan said coldly. "Don't matter. Paper says otherwise." The man smirked. "You keep her, you pick a fight you can't win." The street had gone quiet. Men stood in doorways, watching. Ethan fell. His hand brushed the butt of his Colt. For a breath, it felt like the world hung on a trigger pull. But then Clara's face flickered in his mind, pale and burning with fever. He swallowed the fire in his chest. "Then let it be my fight." The men narrowed their eyes. "So be it." They rode off, but Ethan knew what it meant. They'd be back, and not alone. That night, Clara stirred from her fever. Ethan sat beside her, the storm pressing against the wind. Yes, he admitted. Her eyes searched his, vulnerable and strong all at once. "Then we face them." And outside, lightning split the sky, revealing 3 more riders on the ridge, watching. The storm broke at dawn, rain slashing across the plains. Clara sat up, her fever breaking, her strength slowly returning. She wrapped Ethan's spare coat around her shoulders as she watched him stoke the fire. For the first time since arriving, she looked around the rad. A man's solitude painted into every corner. "Why did you say yes?" she asked softly. "When I had nothing but a lame horse and a name in a letter?" Ethan kept his eyes on the flames. "Because I know what it feels like to have nothing but grit to stand on. Lost my family young. Lost my herd to drought. Kept working 'cause it's the only way I knew how to breathe." She studied him, the way his shoulders carried years of silence. Slowly she reached United. Its hinge was cracked, its shine long faded. She pressed it into his hand. "My mother's," she whispered. "It's all I have left. If I fall, I want someone decent to carry the memory." Ethan closed his fist gently around it, the weight of the keepsake settling into him like a vow. For a long moment, the rain was their only sound. When it eased, Ethan led her outside to the porch. The horizon was dark with riders, too many to count. Clara was dark with riders, too many to count. "Clara," she leaned against him, drawing strength from his presence. "You could still give me up," she murmured. Ethan shook his head. "Not my way." She turned her face to his, close enough that he could see the stormlight reflected in her eyes. For the first time, she let the walls fall. "Then I'll stand with you, whatever comes." Their silence said more than vows could. And as the thunder rolled, the distant riders began to move, their line descending from the Zern. By the time the Carter outfit thundered into the yard, Ethan and Clara were ready. The Winchester was loaded, the Colt at his hip. Clara stood by the barn door, a shotgun braced awkwardly but steady. The tall rider reined in first, sneering. Last chance, Calloway. Hand her over. Ethan stepped forward, rain dripping from his hat brim. She's not yours. Not today, not ever. Guns glinted in the gray light. For a heartbeat, time from Fromth descended to gray light. For a heartbeat, time from Fromth, the yard erupted. Ethan's Winchester roared, dropping one rider. Clara's shotgun blasted, scattering two more. Bullets chewed the porch posts, splintering wood. The smell of gunpowder and wet earth filled the air. Through it all, Clara moved with fierce clarity, fear replaced by something sharper. Freedom clawed from the jaws of men who would have owned her. Ethan fought like a man with something worth dying for, not just surviving. When the smoke cleared, the Carter men were broken. Some fled, others lay moaning in the mud. The tall rider remained crawling, his hand grasping for a revolver. Ethan kicked it away and leveled his Colt. The man spat blood. She's nothing. Ain't worth dying over. Ethan's eyes burned. She's worth everything. He fired once. The man stilled. Silence returned, heavy but clean. Rain washed the blood into the dirt. Clara lowered her shotgun. Lowered her shotgun, chest if. She looked at Ethan, and for the first time she let herself smile. Weeks later, when spring painted the plains green again, the townsfolk spoke differently. They no longer whispered about the runaway bride. They spoke of the woman who stood her ground, and the cowboy who said good enough, and meant it with his life. Clara worked beside Ethan, mending fence lines, tending cattle, laughter slowly threading through days that had once been empty. She wore no fancy dress, carried no dowry, but her presence filled the house with something stronger than wealth. Years later, when their children asked how it all began, Claire would touch the old silver locket and tell them, with nothing but a lame horse, and a man who believed that was enough. A lone horse grazes by the fence, its limp barely noticeable in the tall spring grass, while the ranch house glows warm against the endless western horizon.